A true full English should be pure comfort, crisp bacon, fresh eggs straight from the pan, and sausages with real bite. But in Britain's biggest chains, you're more likely to get carton eggs, microwave beans, and bacon left sweating for hours. Instead of tradition, you are served trucking shortcuts and culinary illusions. How did 9 household names swap homemade pride for freezer leftovers, sometimes with risks that go beyond disappointment? The answer begins where the illusion breaks. Wetherspoons promises the comfort of a pub breakfast, but the reality comes in a plastic pouch. Eggs aren't cracked fresh behind the bar, they are pre-poached in a factory, sealed and shipped to every location. A company memo confirmed that over 1.5 million Benedict meals each year rely on these eggs, reheated in hot water just before serving. When the batch runs out, staff have to tell customers there are no poached eggs left, but fried or scrambled are still available. Former employees describe the kitchen as a production line, with microwaves doing most of the heavy lifting and the so-called chef more of a button pusher than a cook. The illusion of freshness is kept alive by branding and heat lamps, but the eggs on your plate have already traveled through a supply chain built for speed and scale, not taste. The pub setting suggests tradition, but the process is pure logistics. Greggs has built its breakfast empire on speed, not on the craft of cooking. Each morning, staff reach for single-serve tubs of baked beans, sealed in plastic, stacked in the fridge and ready for the microwave. The process is pure efficiency. A tub goes in, the microwave pings, and the beans are poured straight onto a breakfast roll or a tray. There is no simmering on the stove, no taste check, just a countdown to the next order. Former employees describe pressure to keep waste numbers low, with area managers calling if unsold tubs pile up. The message is clear: use what is there, even if it has been sitting since the early shift. Some staff recall being told to reheat tubs nearing their date just to avoid recording them as waste. It is a system where the microwave is king. The goal is not a perfect breakfast. The goal is hitting the numbers. The result is breakfast that is assembled, not cooked, with plastic tubs and time targets replacing tradition. At Harvester, the promise of endless toppings comes with a few tricks behind the kitchen doors. In the rush to keep up with the breakfast crowd, staff have been known to reach for the water jug, not for themselves, but for the beans. 2 former employees confirmed that stretching the beans with water was a routine fix when supplies ran low or numbers needed padding. The result is a watery puddle where a proper helping should be, the flavour thinned out until it barely clings to the toast. On the grill line, things get slick fast. Grease from sausages and bacon accumulates through the morning, with hasty wipe-downs between orders instead of proper cleaning. Inspectors have flagged this build-up at several locations, noting that the grills often move from breakfast to lunch service without a real scrub. When corners are cut to keep costs low and portions flowing, the risks do not just end with bland beans, they linger on every greasy surface, waiting for the next meal to be rushed out the door. Premier Inn's breakfast buffet greets guests with rows of silver trays under soft lighting, but the EGGs at the centre are not what they seem. Instead of fresh eggs cracked to order, the scrambled eggs are usually made from a pre-prepared mix, powdered or liquid eggs rehydrated in bulk, then poured into deep trays and cooked all at once. A former buffet cook said they would get a big bag of egg mix, add water, whisk, and bake it all together. If it sat too long, they just stirred it and hoped for the best. These trays can sit on the buffet for up to 4 hours, with only the occasional top-up to keep them looking full. Guests help themselves, often with the same ladle that has been handled dozens of times, sometimes by children reaching over the line. The result is a dish that looks like scrambled eggs, but lacks the taste, texture, and safety of anything cooked to order. In the name of efficiency, the buffet delivers abundance, at the cost of authenticity and sometimes hygiene. At Brewers Fayre, the sausage is a story in itself. Their breakfast links are often made with mechanically recovered pork, meaning meat scraped from bones by machine and then blended with fillers like rusk and water to stretch the mix. Supplier spec sheets show these sausages can contain as little as 42% actual meat, with the rest made up of starches, flavorings, and preservatives. Independent lab tests have found sodium and additive levels far above what you would find in a butcher's banger. The drive for volume at the buffet means these links are delivered frozen, reheated from solid blocks, and held in warming trays for hours. Nutritionists warn that regular consumption of such processed meats, high in salt and low in real protein, raises the risk of heart disease and high blood pressure. The buffet's promise of endless breakfast comes at a hidden cost. Every plate is loaded with more filler than food, and the health risks do not stop at the edge of the tray. Toby Carvery invites diners in with the promise of a homely Carvery spread, but the mushrooms on your plate tell a different story. Instead of fresh, pan-fried mushrooms, supplier invoices show many locations rely on canned mushrooms treated with citric acid solution, a preservative that keeps them shelf-stable for months. The result is a texture closer to rubber than the soft bite you would expect, and a taste that owes more to chemistry than to the kitchen. Customers might picture a cook sautéing mushrooms to order, but the reality is bulk tins opened and drained, their contents soaking in preservative until service. Sensory comparisons reveal a sharp, slightly metallic tang, a giveaway for anyone familiar with fresh produce. For a chain that leans on the image of traditional British cooking, this ingredient swap undercuts the brand's promise. The mushrooms survive the long buffet hold, but what's lost is the flavour and the illusion of homemade care. Little Chef's heyday promised a hot meal for weary travellers, but the legacy kitchens that remain are relics of another era. Former staff recall fryers filled with oil that was not just a day old, but sometimes cycled through multiple breakfast and lunch services, picking up burnt crumbs and a stale tang that clung to every hash brown. The equipment, some of it stamped with manufacturing dates from the mid-90s, struggled to hold proper temperature. Ventilation fans often rattled, but did little to clear the haze, leaving the air heavy with the smell of old fat. Photographs from recent inspections show greasy residue on vent hoods and yellowed fryer baskets. In these legacy locations, the promise of a classic breakfast meets the reality of oxidized oil and outdated kit, a combination that lingers long after the last plate leaves the pass. On a winter morning at Frankie and Benny's, the kitchen crew unlocked the walk-in fridge and found it silent. The temperature display was blank, and the air inside felt too warm for safe storage. Maintenance logs, meant to be filled each shift, sat untouched. With breakfast service minutes away, staff faced a decision. One former employee remembers the manager instructing them to check for obvious spoilage and then use what seemed all right. Eggs, bacon, and sausages that had spent the night at unknown temperatures were cooked and plated for customers. No incident report was filed. Training manuals said to discard any food exposed to unsafe temperatures. But on this day, that protocol slipped through the cracks. The risk didn't come from the ingredients alone. It came from a system where equipment failure met inexperience, and the cold chain simply broke. Motorway service stations like Moto and Welcome Break serve thousands of breakfasts a week or every day, but their sausages are a nutritional hazard hiding in plain sight. Independent lab panels have measured sodium content in motorway sausages at 2.0 to 3.5 grams per 100 grams, up to 3 times higher than a butcher's sausage. That means a single motorway sausage can deliver nearly half the recommended daily salt intake in one hit. This isn't just about taste or thirst. Regular consumption at these levels is linked to high blood pressure and increased risk of heart disease. The high sodium isn't an accident. It is a supply chain strategy to keep meat stable through freezing, transport, and long hours under heat lamps. For travelers grabbing a quick breakfast, the real risk isn't just a bland meal, but a silent surge in salt that adds up with every stop. Right now, mass catering shortcuts shape what ends up on millions of breakfast plates across the UK. As chains prioritise speed and profit, food quality and safety slip further from tradition. The next forkful isn't just about taste, it's about trust.